Cleveland Browns didn't just lose a football game. They revealed an entire franchise unraveling in real time. What happened on that field wasn't a typical AFC North beatdown or another chapter in the Browns' long history of heartbreak. No, this was something deeper, something darker, something that exposed every crack in the foundation of a team that has spent years pretending it was built for the future. Because while the Ravens were busy playing clean, disciplined, organized football, the Browns were busy proving that they are the exact opposite. And the most painful part? This wasn't supposed to be the script. This was the season Cleveland finally had everything it needed: a top defense, a young quarterback competition, a motivated roster, and momentum. But in a matter of minutes, it all flipped. You could feel it in the stadium. Every incomplete pass, every blown block, every sideline argument, it all told the same story. This team was cracking under pressure. And instead of rising to the moment, the Browns collapsed in a way that embarrassed the players, infuriated the fans, and raised serious questions about the people running this organization. By the time the final whistle blew, it wasn't just a scoreboard issue. It was a culture issue, a preparation issue, and maybe even a future-defining moment. Because what happened against the Ravens didn't just cost them a win. It exposed what the Cleveland Browns really are right now. A franchise with talent, a franchise with potential, and a franchise spiraling out of control. From the moment the game kicked off, you could tell something was off with the Browns. Not because of one big mistake or one bad drive, but because of the energy. The Ravens came out calm, confident, and laser-focused. The Browns came out looking confused, tense, and completely unprepared for a team that wasn't going to hand them anything. The offense looked rattled almost immediately. Routes were mistimed, protection broke D, the worst moments, and both quarterbacks looked like they were playing catch-up instead of leading a controlled attack. Even simple plays felt chaotic, screens blown up, short passes skipped into the turf, and miscommunications that made it look like half the offense hadn't practiced that week. And the body language? That was the real giveaway. Helmets slamming, players pointing fingers, coaches looking stunned instead of correcting mistakes. It's one thing to get outplayed, that happens. But it's another to look lost. And for long stretches of that game, the Browns weren't just getting beaten. They were unraveling right in front of everyone. Meanwhile, Baltimore kept stacking clean drives. No panic, no drama, just disciplined football that exposed every weakness Cleveland tried to hide. Every Ravens first down felt like another reminder of how far the Browns still are from being a team that can handle pressure. By the time the first half ended, it wasn't just a rough start. It was a preview of a meltdown that would only get worse. And everyone watching knew it. If the Browns' shaky start wasn't bad enough, the injuries turned the entire game into a nightmare. It felt like every time Cleveland tried to find a rhythm, another key player was limping off, grabbing something, or heading toward the blue tent. And when a team is already struggling with confidence, nothing destroys momentum faster than watching teammates fall one by one. But it wasn't just the injuries themselves. It was the way the Browns reacted to them. Instead of locking in and tightening up, the team seemed to panic. Substitutions looked rushed, communication fell apart, and on multiple plays, Browns defenders weren't even lined up correctly before the snap. That's not just bad luck. That's a team mentally collapsing under pressure. And the Ravens? They smelled blood. Every time Cleveland tried to adjust, Baltimore attacked. The weakness immediately, running at backups, targeting mismatches, and forcing the Browns to defend long drives with exhausted replacements. It was calculated, ruthless, and completely exposed how unprepared Cleveland was for adversity. What made it worse was the sideline atmosphere. Trainers scrambling, coaches yelling, veterans trying to pull younger players together while frustration boiled everywhere. Instead of rallying, the Browns looked like they were waiting for the next disaster. And in that mindset, disaster usually finds you. By the time the injuries piled up, the Browns weren't just fighting the Ravens. They were fighting themselves, their own mistakes, and a sinking feeling that the game was already slipping away. Just when it looked like the Browns couldn't spiral any further, the real chaos started under center. The quarterback situation didn't just fall apart, it completely unraveled in front of them. Entire stadium. Fans came into the game hoping for stability, maybe even a spark, but what they watched instead felt like a highlight reel of confusion, hesitation, and missed opportunities. From the very first snaps, it was obvious something was off. The timing was shaky, the reads were slow, and every throw looked like it was fighting against pressure that hadn't even arrived yet. When your QB is playing scared before the defense even touches him, that's when the whole offense starts to crumble. Receivers cut their routes short, linemen hesitate, and suddenly every drive looks doomed before it begins. And the worst part? The chaos actually seemed to spread. Miscommunications turned into broken plays. Broken plays turned into turnovers. And those turnovers became the fuel the Ravens used to blow the game open. Instead of stabilizing the team, the quarterback situation became the epicenter of the meltdown. Rumors on the sidelines suggested frustration was boiling. Coaches were arguing, players were shaking their heads, and even the backups looked unsure if they'd be thrown in next. Nothing kills morale faster than uncertainty, and Cleveland had a full serving of it. By the time fans realized what was happening, it wasn't just about bad throws or missed reads anymore. It was about a team that had completely lost trust in its own leader on the field. And once that trust is gone, the entire offense collapses with it. As the disaster kept unfolding on the field, a bigger issue started becoming impossible to ignore. This wasn't just a bad game. This was the result of weeks, maybe even months, of organizational neglect. The Browns didn't just look unprepared, they looked like a team that never practiced the scenarios they were suddenly drowning in. Rumors around the team had been hinting at it for a while. The quarterbacks weren't getting enough real reps in practice. Not the backups, not the young guys, and sometimes not even the starter. And in the NFL, where every second of timing matters, that kind of mismanagement is a ticking time bomb. On Sunday, it finally exploded. You could see the consequences in every snap. Routes were out of sync. Protections broke down because linemen weren't used to the cadence. Even the most basic timing throws floated like they were being attempted for the first time. When a team doesn't prepare its quarterbacks properly, the entire offense becomes a guessing game, and the Browns were guessing on every play. The frustration on the sidelines wasn't just about the game slipping away. It was about players realizing they were being sent out there without the tools they needed to succeed. Coaches scrambling, teammates pointing fingers, everyone trying to figure out how the organization let things fall this far. Enough real reps in practice. Not the backups, not the young guys, and sometimes not even the starter. And in the NFL, where every second of timing matters, that kind of mismanagement is a ticking time bomb. On Sunday, it finally exploded. You could see the consequences in every snap. Routes were out of sync. Protections broke down because linemen weren't used to the cadence. Even the most basic timing throws floated like they were being attempted for the first time. When a team doesn't prepare its quarterbacks properly, the entire offense becomes a guessing game, and the Browns were guessing on every play. The frustration on the sidelines wasn't just about the game slipping away. It was about players realizing they were being sent out there without the tools they needed to succeed. Coaches scrambling, teammates pointing fingers, everyone trying to figure out how the organization let things fall this far. And the most painful part? This wasn't unavoidable. It wasn't fate or bad luck. It was preventable. And that's what made it feel like malpractice. Because by the time Cleveland understood the cost of those missing reps, the damage was already done, and the scoreboard was proof. If there was one moment when fans realized the game was slipping beyond recovery, it was when the offensive line completely fell apart. This wasn't a slow breakdown. It was an avalanche. One bad rep turned into two, and suddenly the quarterbacks were running for their lives before they could even finish their dropbacks. And once the line loses control, the entire offense becomes a disaster zone. At first, it looked like miscommunication. A missed assignment here, a late pickup there. But as the game went on, it became clear this was deeper than a few mistakes. The Ravens were firing off the ball untouched, blowing past blockers who looked overwhelmed and outmatched. And when the quarterback stops trusting his protection, everything collapses. Timing, confidence, and any hope of a functioning offense. Even the running game, which should have helped settle things, completely vanished. Holes closed instantly. Linemen were pushed back into the backfield. Every rushing attempt looked like it was being swallowed before it started. And nothing kills morale faster than watching play after play get buried behind the line of scrimmage. What made it even worse was the body language. Linemen staring at the ground, teammates arguing after sacks, coaches shouting protections that clearly weren't landing. It felt less like an organized unit and more like 5 separate players trying to survive a storm they never trained for. And once Baltimore realized the Browns couldn't hold the pocket, they didn't back off. They dialed up even more pressure, exposing every weakness until Cleveland had no answers left. By the time the fourth quarter rolled around, the offensive line wasn't just struggling, it was defeated. And with them went any chance of a comeback. What made the entire collapse even harder to watch was the fact that the Browns' defense didn't come to lose. They came out swinging. Early in the game, they were flying around the field, shutting down lanes, blowing up screens, and forcing the Ravens into uncomfortable situations. For a moment, it looked like this unit might actually carry the team through the chaos. But a great defense can only hold for so long when the offense keeps handing the ball right back. Drive after drive, the defense trotted back onto the field with barely a chance to catch their breath. And no matter how talented a unit is, fatigue always wins. Slowly, you can see it. The hands on hips, the heavy breathing, the slight hesitation before the snap. That's all Baltimore needed. Wasn't leadership. It was confusion. Instead of a coaching staff stepping in to calm things down and adjust, the Browns looked like a team waiting for someone to take charge. But no one ever did. The play calling grew more desperate with every drive. One moment, it felt overly conservative. The next, it swung wildly in the opposite direction, like the coaches were throwing darts and hoping something stuck. There was no rhythm, no identity, and absolutely no sense of a plan. And when a team senses that uncertainty, they start playing like it too, hesitant, frustrated, and unsure of what's coming next. The most painful part was the lack of adjustments. The offensive line was collapsing. The quarterbacks were rattled. The defense was exhausted. Any competent staff would shift strategy, slow the game down, or find ways to protect their weak spots. Instead, Cleveland doubled down on what wasn't working, making the collapse feel almost self-inflicted. But the real problem wasn't just the coaching mistakes. It was the silence. No accountability, no urgency, no one stepping up to take responsibility as the game unraveled. Players were arguing, assistants looked overwhelmed, and the head coach barely showing the fire or command you expect from someone leading an NFL team through a crisis. Fans didn't just watch their team lose. They watched their leaders disappear when the players needed them most. And when a team has talent but no direction, chaos always wins. By the end, it wasn't just a bad game. It was a glaring reminder that without real leadership, nothing else matters. Just when it felt like the entire night had been nothing but frustration, one moment finally cut through the chaos. Shedeur Sanders stepping onto the field and refusing to look intimidated. With the game already out of reach, most players would have gone through the motions. Not him. He treated that final drive like it actually mattered, like he had something to prove. And that alone shifted the energy in the stadium. Right away, he showed something the offense had been missing all game. Calm, poise, a sense of control. He didn't look rushed or rattled. Instead, he stood in the pocket, read the field, and delivered throws with confidence the team desperately needed hours earlier. It wasn't about flashy stats, it was about presence, and Shedeur had it. What really caught fans off guard was the timing. Even behind a collapsing offensive line, he still managed to fire off quick, precise passes that kept the drive alive. He moved the ball with purpose, hitting short windows and making decisions that looked far beyond rookie instinct. For the first time all game, the offense actually looked functional, and his teammates felt it too. You could see receivers fighting harder for extra yards. The puddle looked more focused. Even the sideline seemed to spark with a little bit of hope, like everyone was thinking the same thing. Why didn't this happen sooner? The drive didn't change the outcome, but it changed the conversation. In a night full of mistakes and mayhem, Shedeur gave fans something real, a glimpse of what the future could look like. A reminder that buried under all the dysfunction, there might still be a quarterback worth believing in. When the clock finally hit zero, it wasn't just the end of a game, it felt like the end of the Browns' season. The loss wasn't one of those shake it off and move on moments. It was the kind of collapse that forces an entire organization to take a hard look in the mirror and admit something deeper. Whatever they thought they were building, it's not working. Fans knew it. Players knew it. Even the coaching staff, as quiet as they tried to stay, couldn't hide the reality. This team wasn't beaten because of one bad matchup. They were beaten because their foundation cracked in every direction at once. Leadership, preparation, execution, accountability. And once all those pieces fall apart, the season is effectively done, long before the schedule says it is. Now the real question becomes, what happens next? Rumors are already swirling about potential coaching changes, locker room tension, and whether certain players have finally lost faith in the direction of the franchise. Reports claim some veterans are pushing for major adjustments, while others are privately frustrated with the constant chaos behind the scenes. Nothing is confirmed yet, but the noise isn't going away. And then there's the quarterback situation, the one storyline guaranteed to dominate every conversation moving forward. With Shedeur showing a spark late in the game, fans are starting to wonder if a shift is coming sooner than anyone expected. It's not a guarantee, but it's no longer impossible. The truth is simple. The Browns can't keep pretending everything is fine. Something has to change. Maybe it starts with the coaching staff. Maybe it starts at quarterback. Maybe it starts with the entire culture. But one thing is clear. Whatever happens next will determine whether this franchise climbs out of the wreck or stays buried in it. With 7 games left and the season effectively spiraling into the abyss, the Browns finally reached the moment everyone knew was coming. When Kevin Stefanski was asked whether Shedeur Sanders would start if Dillon Gabriel doesn't clear concussion protocol, he didn't hesitate. He didn't explain. He didn't dance around it. He just said one word: yes. And with that, the future of the Browns quarterback room shifted, whether they're ready for it or not. Let's be clear, Shedeur didn't earn this job with his performance against Baltimore. Nobody is pretending 4 completions and an interception is some kind of breakout moment. But this move isn't about stats. It's about reality. The Browns have nothing left to lose. No playoff race to chase. No momentum to salvage. No identity to protect. What they do have is a young quarterback with raw talent, real confidence, and flashes of poise that actually stood out in the final 2-minute drill. So now the decision is simple. You give Shedeur every first-team rep. You build the game plan around him. You tailor the offense to his strengths instead of forcing him into a broken system. Let him throw on the move. Let him push the ball deep. Let him play with instinct, not fear. Because this is the only way to find out what he really is. If he collapses, fine. You draft a quarterback in 2025 and move on. But if he grows, if he develops timing, chemistry, and composure, then Cleveland might have stumbled onto the franchise QB they've been chasing for 2 decades. The job is his now, not because he's ready, but because the Browns finally are. When you step back and look at everything, the quarterback chaos, the injuries, the offensive collapse, the wasted defensive greatness, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. The Cleveland Browns are just losing games. They're losing direction. This franchise is standing at a crossroads, staring at 2 paths that could not be more different. On one side is the future they keep promising, the rebuild, the patience, the trust the process mindset. On the other is the harsh reality fans are living through right now. Year after year of disappointment, mismanagement, wasted talent, and excuses that sound more hollow with every loss. You can't have both. At some point, a real decision has to be made. Myles Garrett is in his prime. Carson Schlesinger and Mason Graham are emerging stars. The defense is championship caliber today, not 3 years from now. And yet, this team is stumbling toward a 3 or 4 win season because the offense can't execute basic football. That disconnect, that gap between potential and results, is the clearest sign something is fundamentally broken. So here we are. The season is over. The playoff hopes are gone. And Cleveland has to decide what kind of franchise it wants to be. Do they overhaul the coaching staff? Do they reset the offensive system? Do they commit to Shedeur and build something new? Or do they blow it all up and start again? Whatever the answer is, it must come soon. Because right now, the Browns are wasting greatness, wasting time, and wasting hope. And in Cleveland, hope is already running dangerously thin.